So this is quite a very like informal chat actually. There's not really like, it's not a class at all. It's just a catch up. Since we're like at week 6 of the residency, and we're basically, as weird as that sounds, we're kind of like halfway through it. So I just wanted to, yeah, just kind of like hear from you guys what you are thinking, how you're finding it so far, if there's any like feedbacks, anything that you want to share with us, either me or Yinga, or particularly with me, that's, you know, that you yeah, that you're finding in these first 6 weeks, and maybe also, you know, things that you would like to see or have for the next 6 weeks that are upcoming. So it's just really like an opportunity for us to have like just a quick check-in, a quick chat, and yeah, understand what you think about the program so far, and any feedbacks that you may have for us. And I'm also happy to, yeah, just kind of like read the chat if people don't want to unmute, or you know, they don't want to speak. Yeah, or if not, feel free to also like unmute, and we can, yeah, we can have a conversation. But it's just a very, yeah, just a very informal kind of like way to get together, to see how you guys are feeling, to see what you thought about the program so far, and what you, yeah, what you would like to maybe see for the next 6 weeks, other than what is already planned, let's say.
Oh,
Hey.
thank you, Micol, for having this session and also for the whole program. Yeah, I guess I've kind of asked this a little bit in other sessions of various kinds, but I'd love to know just a little bit more background about how this came about, and what were your intentions, and what do you hope that people will get out of the residency, or, you know, what do you also see as things that you would like to do in the future that would be different, or what do you think's working well or not well, or something like that. So I just wanted to kind of get a little bit more background. You know, I mean, I don't have a lot of understanding of like how this ended up being like what it is. I mean, I'm really happy with it, but I'm just wondering, like, how did it end up being something that I, you know, didn't know enough about? So I'd love to know more.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So the residency started 2 years ago, so we're actually coming up to our second anniversary in July, in mid-July. And the reason why we started it, or why I primarily started it really, was because I was getting a lot of requests and kind of like asks from different artists that were either in our network and our community as VCA, or just also like people that were getting into NFTs. Consider that at the time it was kind of like right after the Beeple boom, so a lot of artists were approaching the NFT space, and were a bit lost, let's say. So the program kind of like came about with the reason to help navigate the space for artists who are either kind of like really new to the whole NFT, Web3, blockchain, crypto art ecosystem, or who have been here for a while and maybe, you know, want to dig a bit deeper, and kind of like, yeah, understand, maybe even kind of like pause a little bit in, you know, chasing something, and like understand, you know, where they go next from where they are at the moment. So that's why the program is has been built quite comprehensively, to essentially cover a lot of different topics that are not just, you know, kind of like context setting and, you know, history of crypto art and all the rest, but also like more specific topics, like, for example, you know, coding and you know, metaverse worlds, and like 3D skills, or Blender, Touch Designer, etc., as well as obviously like other kind of like more general, let's say, art topics such as gallery curation and so on. And yeah, it just started as an experiment, really. We did the first one, it was very successful. We had a lot of applicants. And then we said, okay, then maybe it's something that people are actually looking for and actually seeking. And so from there, it kind of continued. And obviously, every time we do a residency program, we then, let's say, take on the feedback that we get from the previous residents and kind of like it allows us to inform what the next one will look like. A lot of the bases stay the same, but a lot of classes get added. A lot of classes maybe get taken out because they're not considered, they're not voted, as interesting, or are not considered as interesting. But it's also a way for us actually, to have a couple of things. One is build an ecosystem or foster an ecosystem that is not relying on any transactional value to essentially associate kind of like transactions to success, because this program has no transaction happens across these 6 weeks or 12 weeks. Yes, we do have an auction. Yes, we do have an exhibition at the end of the residency. But even then, it's kind of like like an add-on, a good to have, a celebration. It's not seen by any means as a way to evaluate anyone's work. So this is like the first thing, and then the second thing is. Also allows us to actually discover quite a lot of artists. And this discovery of artists actually helps inform all of our curatorial decisions and exhibitions that we then do as vertical crypto art, kind of like more on the gallery and exhibition side of things, which has been actually probably one of the nicest and most interesting parts for me specifically, because I obviously work a lot on the curatorial side of things. Um, and yeah, so I think like these two things have been kind of like our primary goals when we look at the residency. But then the bigger overarching one is also trying to focus on education. Like I don't think not many ecosystems within the Web3 space really do that in a way that is as comprehensive as the VCA residency. And we definitely were, I mean, I never say we are first in anything, but we were definitely first in creating this Web3 art residency program. And I haven't seen many more actually, which is kind of interesting, to be honest, because it obviously is a very hyper financialized ecosystem where we all are. So it feels something that is definitely needed, um, and that we hope that we can continue. Of course, it comes with a lot of challenges because we're not like it's something that we're providing a lot of resources, and obviously it's a program that is quite intense to also kind of like keep running. And so that's why we have like certain sponsors or certain partners, and yeah, I mean that's kind of like the gist of it. I don't know if it fully answered your question, but hopefully it gave you a bit of context as to why we started it, and what we kind of seek as successful for these residencies. I think also something else actually, whilst I'm speaking and thinking about it, is I really enjoy, for me, like a successful residency program is also where actually artists like you guys, the residents, really create and like bond with each other. It doesn't always happen, like to be totally honest. It very much depends on, I think, luck, first of all, how engaged people are in the program and how much you're willing to put in, because I think the more you want to put in, also the more you get out. And of course, sometimes it's also a matter of like how much we can do to foster these ecosystems of like kind of like more informal sharing of things, like for example the Twitter spaces or the lounges, and so on. So yeah, for me, like when I finish a program, what makes me feel good is that when actually the residents have bonded between each other, and then they keep in touch, and that has happened, I would say, the majority of the programs, the majority of the cohorts, which is obviously really nice to see. So yeah, these are some of the things that I would say I consider as important for the program. Did that answer a little bit, Carolina, your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you. I have an idea of for something to increase that quality of the cohort people bonding with each other more, which is similar to the one-on-one mentorships. That you might be able to do something where you encourage. I know we could just do it independently, but just encourage one-on-ones between people in the cohort. So that's an idea.
I love that. That's a great idea, actually. That's a really good idea. And how do you, or how would you all, uh, kind of feel about that? You can put some emojis or just say, in the chat if that's something that you would be happy to, and then maybe we can make it a little bit more formal and kind of like try to do the same thing that we do with mentors, but with artists, so you guys can book one-on-ones between each other, or more than one-on-ones. Let's say one to three. Let's say one-on-one artist. Okay, yeah, cool. That's good to know. Brilliant idea. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And also, if anybody has any other ideas to encourage, a better program, like, we're very, very, very open to any feedback. Actually, we seek it. This is why we're here today, and this is why we also do a survey at the end of every residency to kind of really, and it's completely anonymous as well, the survey. So if you don't want to kind of like say it now openly, you can also do it at the end, to share any feedback that you have. Okay, great. Yes, we'll definitely organize it. Let me look back at some of the questions. Hi, Micol, it has been wonderful so far. Lots of information, which is awesome, but it takes me a while to catch up and absorb it all. Yes, I feel that. I understand that. I also want to kind of stress that there is no like pressure from our side to, let's say, how can I say, like, absorb everything that you're learning in the moment that you're learning. I think the reason why we also record all of the classes, have them all on our YouTube channel, they stay on our YouTube channel, is really to kind of encourage, even after the classes end, even after the residency ends, to even go back to maybe certain topics or specific workshops that you really enjoyed and that you really want to dig into, and kind of like, encourage that more slow learning. So I think the reason why we try to put as much as possible, especially with these classes during the first 8 weeks, is to encourage and to let you meet a lot of the mentors, like, let's say, face to face or kind of like virtually. So you get to know them, and then you also maybe feel more comfortable reaching out on a second occasion or on a third occasion as well. Of course, I think, like, the more you participate in the classes, the more you can get out of it, and that's something that we do tend to focus on, or let's say try and stress. But it's, we understand that everybody has lives and families and jobs, so it's totally not expected that you are 100% absorbing every single topic or thought or kind of like knowledge that is being shared with you. So definitely want to point that out. So
Hello, Micol.
hi.
I would like to say that I really enjoy the residency so far. I actually share it with all of my friends and all the artists that I like, and I really advise them to look out for it and join if they will have an opportunity in the future. Actually, I cannot believe it's already halfway. I cannot imagine what I'm gonna do after it finished, because it's such a pleasure for me getting to know so many artists and people, and yeah, it's really great. So I feel what I would like to maybe add, yes, the idea of one-on-one with artists, great. I like it a lot, and also, yeah, if anyone would like to have one-on-one, just let me know. I'm totally open to meet everyone and to have a chat. And if you have any like interest or idea, and also I would like to have some maybe like group meeting with artists from previous cohorts, just to for them to share the experience with us. How did they go through the residency, and what happened to them after that, and what did change in their artistic or in their life, something like that. Yeah, but overall I'm really inspired, and I'm loving the residency. Every class is like total blast for me. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually a lot of our past residents are kind of like part of the mentorship, like sheets. So you can definitely like as a kind of like a plus, like you can definitely reach out to them, like for example Anna Maria or Callan or Kashushu. There's a lot of them are are kind of like let's say available to have a chat and a conversation. We also always keep all of the lounges, the Twitter spaces. They are open to all of our past like alumni, mentors, etc. And the Discord here stays open as long as you want it to stay open. Also the Twitter chat, like we're still kind of like very much engaging with a lot of the artists from the fifth cohort or the fourth cohort or the second cohort. So we have like kind of like opportunities also to like even like sometimes like meet in person. Like a lot of the artists from past cohorts have met, I don't know, during like NFT NYC, or we're gonna meet like again in Lisbon. Sometimes when there's like these kind of like bigger reunions or bigger events. And we are definitely thinking, even with Yinga as well, we've been discussing this internally quite a bit on how to kind of facilitate even more past cohorts to be more involved and engaged into like some of the activities that we do most informally as well. So that's definitely something that we're thinking about. And yeah, trying to, I think like the second year anniversary celebration is actually also a way for us to like re-engage with a lot of the past cohorts. um, and yeah, to kind of like make sure, like try to find also a way to gather people together again, because sometimes like people have to have a little bit of a push, to or like a reason to like be engaged again, because obviously everybody's like very busy with their own lives and with whatever it is that they're doing. So I think hopefully the second year anniversary will be a way to also like engage with a lot of the past cohorts too. But I do also recommend to have a look at the mentor sheet, because a lot of the artists are actually past, a lot of the mentors are actually past residents. So definitely look at that. Yeah, everything that Yinga is writing you can see it, and it's absolutely true.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I really love art critique session, and we had like a little bit sessions during our lounges and open mic, when artists showed. I love when other artists in a cohort showing their works, and I really would love to have more art critique sessions. For me, it was last session was absolutely enjoyable. Like I was blown away, still under impression. So if it's possible, I would love to have more like this. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely ask Harry if we can organize another kind of like critique session. I think you had two so far, right? That's and I think it should be yeah, we should have, yeah. So we can definitely ask. I mean, Harry is wonderful. And I agree. I do think that also setting up your own art critique sessions would be a really good idea. I absolutely agree with you, Nominal. Um, we actually used to do on the Discord like some kind of like art talks, a little less, let's say, like scary, a scary name than art critiques, but like art talks. So it's definitely something that, yeah, that we can organize as well after the residency. Yes, let me go back to some of the unanswered ones. So, am I wondering if residents are able to continue to reach out to mentors after the 12 weeks? It's not frowned upon at all. You can definitely reach out to the mentors after the 12 weeks. We usually, like some artists do. Obviously, like it depends on also like mentor availability and so on. And sometimes we have like a new residency program starting, but you know the mentors are there, so yeah, if you haven't had the opportunity to reach out to them, you can definitely do so after the cohort ends. So I'm just reading some of the comments. The Discord channel, yes, definitely stays active. All of the Discord channels of the past cohorts are still all open and active. I just wanted to touch on the the Twitter Spaces. Yeah, so the Twitter Spaces is fun, but it's also public, which adds a certain dimension to it. Absolutely. And this is also the reason why we do it, actually, just to kind of like point that out, because I think like in the process, it's something that we actually started to do one cohort or two cohorts ago, because it's actually a way also for past residents to kind of like join in, because it's all open, it's on Twitter, everybody can see that it's happening, and you know it's sometimes a bit easier to just say, hey, you know, I'm just gonna pop on and say hello, but also it's a really good practice. I know that Twitter Spaces can be a bit daunting. I mean, they are for me, and I tend to do quite a lot of them, and they're still very daunting, and I still don't like to do them. But it is definitely like a practice and something that I think helps to practice when you're in a kind of like a space that it's a bit more, even though it's open and public, it's still kind of surrounded by people that you usually know, or at least you know a few of them. So yeah, it's something that we also did to facilitate that type of conversation in an open public space. And actually, it's something that, you know, we also last cohort we also kind of like asked artists if they wanted to be co-hosts of the space, which is something that I would highly encourage anybody, if you do want to host a space, to definitely like reach out to us, and let us know, because we'd be more than happy to do that. I think it's a great practice. It's something that I think helps a lot. And yeah. Else. Does anybody else have any other thoughts or comments or things that they would like to add? Yeah,
Yeah, Micol.
Hey.
Yeah, just wanted to say how grateful I am for the ways that you've helped bring about and manifest in the world. Like this has been such a lovely experience so far, and I'm really grateful to have been chosen and to just be part of this, because it already I can already feel how much it has expanded my view of my own practice, of how I want to relate to the space, and obviously introduced me to all these wonderful and talented people. I also wanted to say that I really appreciate the accessibility of it. Most of the presenters, if not everyone, has been aware of the fact that some people may not want to, may not feel comfortable talking on mic, and so making a habit of checking the chat and just that accessibility of it, as well as the intention of being inclusive and trying to bring both in the residents people from different backgrounds, different places in the world, and same with the speakers, the people who are presenting in the classes. It feels like a truly global thing, and that's it's easy to talk about how these things are values, but to see them manifested, to see them acted out is so refreshing. It's so nice and very much appreciated. I just wanted to say that.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Um, I'm glad it resonates, and it's something that you're feeling is useful and valuable, not just for the kind of the education part, but also for also trying to have a space and a safe space where you can share what you're up to, what you're doing. For example, like something that I'm also finding with the fifth cohort a lot is that the chat on Twitter is really active, and they kind of like all share between each other, oh, I'm part of this exhibition, what do you guys think I should do you think I should like do a one-of-one or do an edition, or how do I present the work? And so it's also like a way to to just have like a feedback kind of like group of people that you can share openly, maybe some doubts or some things that you just want to have a space that you can share some things that you might not necessarily not necessarily want to ask just random people, or have even the opportunity to ask. So yeah, that's also part of why we do everything like this.
I had another question in the chat about the last 2 weeks, the artwork creation part.
Yes, sorry, let me go and get it. Is that for the exhibition, donation to the program, or both, or neither? It's up to you. So it's your choice for the exhibition, for the final exhibition, whether you want to donate part of the proceeds, whether you want to donate the whole work, whether you want to just kind of like keep it for yourself. So it's the percentage is kind of like a voluntary choice between you all. But we will go through kind of like the exhibition and the auction details. I believe it's gonna be in like a couple of weeks. We have a chat again with myself. Yeah, it's on actually the 28th of June. So yeah, in just a couple of weeks, 3 weeks time, we will go over like how does the exhibition look like, what are we doing for the exhibition, and yeah, what is kind of like the ask. Let's say let's call it the ask.
Can it be something that you created outside of this residency, or you would like it to be something that we created during those 2 weeks, those last, what is it, 2 or 3 weeks at the end?
Not necessarily. I think like obviously it's always nice when the work is kind of like also informed by maybe like the process of these 12 weeks. So it doesn't necessarily have to be created in those 2, 3, 4 weeks, but maybe throughout like these kind of 3 months would be nice. But again, it's not a requirement. So it's also open. Emily is saying, I'm loving the residency, especially the art critiques. Wondering whether the addition of marketing critique would be helpful, answering questions like, how are you communicating to potential collectors through your website or Twitter feed? Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, how would we? Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. I'm just thinking who might be the best person to facilitate that. And we have to have a little think about it, maybe. Maybe Patrick. Yeah, I was thinking the same. Patrick, Fanny. Also, I encourage you to ask these questions when we have the AMAs with the artists, because actually, like, these are really good questions to ask different types of artists because everybody has their own way that they, communicate. But definitely, let's think about a marketing critique that we can facilitate. We actually have, sorry, Yinga, on this note, we have a AMA because we've been told by Patrick that a lot of you have reached out uh, to him about doing one-on-ones, but he's actually quite busy. So we're gonna transition into him doing an AMA, so like an open format and ask me anything. And I think, yeah, that will be a good opportunity to ask these sort of questions, and then we can think about who else could also facilitate that session. So Nominal, your audio cut out. Yeah, for the exhibition, it's up to you guys. So it's either a donation or you can donate part of the proceeds. So it depends on what you want to do. Yeah, we have a few more AMAs that need to be, like a few more Fridays that need to be covered for AMAs. So I'm going to go through the list once again that you shared with us. But yeah, I mean, like, if you have any additional suggestions, even considering where you are at the stage now of the residency, and maybe who you would like to hear from as well, please do let me know. This week it's Dr. Tina River Ryans. So that's, I think, it's going to be a really, really good one. And then next week we have Untitled XYZ, Zankan. So yeah, there's a few that obviously we took all of your suggestions and tried to get as many of them to come. But yeah, if there's anyone else who you'd like to also hear from, especially if there's anyone particular that a lot of people would like to hear from, just yeah, let me know. Let us know. Yeah, that's a great idea. Also, Yinga, to treat the AMA with Patrick as maybe a potential critique. I'm sure he'd be very happy for that. And also, he's a great person to talk about these things because his social media, like the way he communicates with his collectors, is kind of very unique and very successful as well, I would say. Anyone else that would like to share anything at all, even between each other? It's quite a open session.
Hello. I just would like to really quickly express how thankful I am for this, and that everybody has been really lovely, and it really helped me, I think, to put in context all the NFT. I mean, the NFT history part and everything really helped me, I think, to know more about, I don't know, where all this came from, and to think where this maybe still go. And also I think it really opened my mind to a lot of, I don't know, new ideas or new techniques. It's also really nice knowing more people uh, in this context and everything. So it's really helping me and really interesting. So I just want to say and thank you to be here.
Amazing. That's really good to know. Cross-Lucid, the one-on-one sessions are extremely useful as they target exactly specific issues and topic relating directly to the artist practice. Yeah, I agree, and I also, for anybody who still hasn't made use of the mentorship one-on-one sessions, I definitely suggest and recommend to do so, because because they're very, very useful, and you can ask specific questions like, for example, about your practice, or how should I communicate with my collectors, etc., and so on. So yeah, definitely make use of those.
Hey,
Hey,
hello.
hi, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm always never sure if my mic is acting up, but yeah, I was just going to echo a lot of what everyone has shared. The sessions have been super insightful, and just the diversity of the presenters, their experience, and everything they've shared. It's also kind of, at least for me, made me feel a lot more, I'll say, reassured and confident, just being in this space, knowing that there are all these other professionals engaged within the space, trying to create opportunities and approaching it with this kind of academic rigor, and just creating space for us artists to produce and connect and collaborate. So yeah, it's been wonderful just being a part of this. And so yeah, thanks for that. And I just had a kind of a random question about how the team, VCA team, kind of measures or rates like what a successful cohort has been like at the end of this residency. Like, what do you guys look at to tell, okay, like this actually went well, or this is what we could like do better?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of touched on it before with Carolina, which was also her question, and it's a couple of things. One of the main things is actually how engaged people are in the program, and also how they are engaged with each other, like the residents, and what the kind of like the I know way this kind of word community gets bounced around a lot and talked about a lot, but realistically, this is really what we try to create, like foster, let's say, an ecosystem of, like-minded people, or people who are sharing a similar space and a similar maybe challenges or similar successes, and to foster that. So when we see that the residency is creating that, when a cohort is kind of like that happens in a cohort, then I think for us it's a success. So and obviously also like how the attendance is with the program, with the classes, and the feedback that we get really about it. That's kind of how we rate a successful cohort and a successful program. So far it's been really, I would say, positive. We've never really had, like a negative cohort, I have to say, which has been great. We've obviously had, like, to be totally transparent and honest, we've had cohorts where not everybody was, vibing between each other, and that's also fine. It doesn't always happen. But even in those situations, there's always been specific kind of like group of artists that actually then really bonded. Like maybe it was like 3 or 4, like for example Boria. She was a past resident, and she really, that like her, Micol, Zareen, encapsulate, like they really connected, and like they're, she tells me all the time, like they're still in touch, they talk all the time, they kind of like they built a friendship, really, and so I think that's success, for us. Like that's a real successful outcome of any possible program that you do. So I think, yeah, it's these two factors, I would say, which is interesting because, again, it's nothing to do with any, like means of transaction or money. Like we never consider, for example, like the auction or the exhibition as like a factor of success, like we never. That is like a celebration, we don't really look at, how much the work is selling for to understand if it's been a successful cohort. Obviously, it's great when we also manage to connect our collectors, or like the collectors that are in our network, to the residency artists, which is happening pretty much all the time, which is something that is great, but not because of us, mostly because of you guys, like Elsie, for example, has been, collecting from the residency since the very beginning. The Funny Guys, Greek DX, a lot of like kind of like these kind of like bigger collectors then also discover artists through our residency program, and I think that's that's amazing, because it's harder in these ecosystems, especially within the Twitter kind of like bubble and sphere, to really like discover artists, and also for collectors to take risks that are not the top selling artist on whatever platform. So I think when that happens, it's also really good, and it makes us feel good about the program, that it's delivering what it should, or what the value and the kind of overarching goal of it is. But mostly it's about building a successful kind of like ecosystem, and a meaningful connections between you guys, really. Yes, Alice Scope, I love her, and she's amazing. So definitely, that's a really good shout. I will reach out to her. I actually, yeah, we met in person a lot of times. She's wonderful.
Is there a VCA DAO in the works?
So it's something that we have gone back and forth for such a long time. And so the answer to your question is like, no, it's not in the works. It's definitely something that we have in the back of our mind. At the same time, we've realized that to build an actual DAO, there's a lot of things that you have to consider, especially from like if we think about DAOs as like legal entities. This is kind of like how I'm thinking about it. There's a lot of steps to be able to like actually be a DAO. And one thing that we internally have as like kind of like let's say a bit of ethos and values is that we don't like to do things just because, like if we do something, we want to do it well. And so if we do decide to create a VCA residency DAO, we want to be able to have all the resources and all the kind of like ground bases set for that to be an actual DAO, which I don't think, we are there yet. But it's definitely something that we go back and forth on the back of our minds a lot. And maybe we should move forward with it. Yeah. Yeah, I think something that I want to do is actually invite some collectors in for some AMAs, because we've always done that in the past, and I think it's very useful. I know this hasn't been they're not really in the suggestions, apart from Colburn, which I can definitely ask him. But I think, yeah, definitely like AMAs with collectors are always really a chance to meet them and like ask them questions. We usually have like the funny guys or Greek DX. Of course, Elsie was here, which was useful. But if you guys are up for it, I would definitely like to also facilitate some of those sessions too. Yep, bona fidan, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Would love an AMA with Linda. She's wonderful. I'll ask her. And actually, during the last kind of like weeks of the residency, we don't really have that many classes. So we sometimes actually do more than one AMA in the week, just because, especially if we have like more more suggestions than the Fridays that are in the residency, we just add them. Maybe we do like a couple of AMAs a week, if if that's yeah, if you guys are up for it. Yes, in real life, absolutely. Well, one thing that we are definitely planning and is in the works. I know it's maybe not super easy to get to for everybody, but we are going to be doing Proof of People in London again, as the first one that we did last year, actually in July, in November. So this is definitely happening in November. Would we would love to see many of you there, and it's definitely a good opportunity to come to the event, but also like to meet. It kind of happened in New York with a few of our past cohorts at Proof of People. We had a brief gathering. Obviously, it's always hard to find a place that is easy for everybody to get to because we're all so global. But as I always say, like whenever there's these kind of like bigger events, even like NFC Lisbon, for example, this week, if you are there, yeah, just kind of like reach out, and we always like find a time to, get together, have a coffee, have a drink, or whatever, have a chat between each other and meet in person as well. At one point, we would love to have, an actual like space where we even potentially host some sort of like in real life residency. But obviously, this comes with, much more complexity, logistics, costs, etc. So it's definitely something that we are hoping to do soon. And let's see, it'll probably be London if it is, because we are based here, and it seems to be like also a middle point between a few people as well. Asia, US, Europe. Yeah, I know. London is a bit cold in November, but it's not that cold. It's still fine. It's basically as cold as the rest of Europe in November, I would say. Not even a bit warmer, like in certain places. Also, it depends where you are. I mean, obviously, if you're in a very if you're in a very warm place, then yeah, London definitely gets cold in the winter. No, come on, guys. It's not that bad. Honestly, I've lived in London for 12 years. It's worse. It's worse. It's better than it seems. It's getting better. It's not as rainy as it was. We have like good weather. It's not too bad. Yes, the dates will be 15th and 16th. We haven't announced it yet, by the way. So it's like kind of like keep it on the down low for the moment, but we will announce it very soon. But yeah, 15th, 16th of November. God, Emily, New York gets so hot in the summer. It's like my worst nightmare, New York in the summer. Yes, yes, absolutely. I try to avoid it at all costs. Oh, so we are doing, sorry, just on the back of this, whilst I'm seeing that everybody's putting where they are, we are doing a map of all the residency past cohorts and current cohorts of where we're at. So where we are based, where we live. Obviously, if you want to share, you don't have to. So we'll have this like map of the cohorts. Yeah, like basically live very soon. So then at this, it'll be like a good opportunity also to see where people are, and if you are ever in that side of the world, then you can reach out to them, and so on. Sorry, I know it's like at the top of the, like we're like 9 minutes over the hour. So if anybody has to jump off, feel free to. I don't want to hold you any longer. But yeah, obviously, if you want to share more, I can stick around as well. So Ivan is saying if it would be awesome to have a session of how to price our work. No, it's very relevant. It's not a definite answer. Should I keep the high price of the last sale? Should I go down open edition? Yeah. We used to have a session about this actually. I think it's coming up. Yinga, correct me if I'm wrong. It should be the session with Ryan, where we talk about that. Yeah, so there is a session coming up. It's like said like strategies for setting up your own marketplace, but really it's like a lot of like pricing and stuff like that. So that class, which is on the 29th of June, will be touching a lot of those topics as well. And Ryan is also a collector too, so definitely, feel free to ask these questions as well. Wonderful. Yeah, and also guys, I feel free to reach out to me as well, like with DMs and stuff. Like my DMs are not open on Discord because I get a lot of random requests, but just friend request me, and then I obviously will accept, and then you can just DM me as well. So if you want to have like just one more like one-on-one conversation, you want to share something that you don't want to share with the group, or anything at all, feel free to do that. Always open to chat. And if you're in Lisbon this week, let me know. I'm there from tomorrow until Friday. Friday. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day and week. Hope you enjoy the classes this week. And yeah, speak soon. Bye-bye.